everybody. I'm Al Michaels along with Ken Dryden. It should be a great night. I'm sure there are a lot of people in this building who do not know the difference between a blue line and a clothesline. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter because what we have at hand, the rarest of sporting events.
So this is my rather recently obtained Miracle on Ice Edition SuperChexx Pro. And my original intent was to work with the Chexx Mods guys and swap out to their Jumbotron and board system. But unfortunately, after talking to them, sounds like they're in the middle of developing their own table, and they weren't terribly interested at this point in doing any more, selling any more mods for Chexx tables, at least at this point in time. So I figured I would strike out on my own. There's plenty of other great vendors out there doing, the decal and dasherboard systems and ice and new nets and everything like that. So I work with a few of them to get this project going. But the one thing I did think would be neat for this Miracle on Ice edition would be to swap out a lot of the sounds that you hear, the default Chexx sounds, with actual calls from, Al Michaels and Ken Dryden from the actual game. So the project started out as figuring out how to do that, and a lot of the credit goes to the Pinside forums, specifically a user called Rick6668, I believe it was, because he posted some fairly detailed instructions on just what those audio files are and how to go about swapping them. But until you sit down and delve into it a little bit, it isn't terribly inherently obvious, and so I had to print out all of his instructions and go through them a few times. But for anyone that's, in the end, anyone that's even somewhat computer literate, it really isn't that hard of a process, because it just involves basically overwriting some files on the SD cards that are installed on your SuperChexx Pro. So for a SuperChexx Pro, there's 3 cards, SD cards in the game. There's 2 actually, in the Jumbotron, one on each side. I'm not going to break apart the Jumbotron again to show you those, because frankly, for just doing the audio files, you don't really even need to mess with those. The one you do have to mess with, however, and alter is the single SD card, or micro SD, I should say, that is on your motherboard. So we'll start working with that, and I'll go through and show you how I went about modding the files, and I think the end results turned out pretty well. All right, very important, just make sure anytime you're monkeying around inside your Chexx, make sure it's turned off, and also, just to be safe, I unplug it just in case I don't want any stray power surges or anything while I'm messing around on the circuit board. So to get to the first SD card, it's actually on the circuit board for the main Chexx itself. So depending on your version, I've got the wood-based version, but for mine, it's under here in this cabinet. The lighting is actually quite terrible. Turn the light on here. So there's the main circuit board is mounted to the very top in my cabinet. And the SD card, if I can zoom in close enough here, is right up there at a little SD card holder. So in order to get that card out, just push it. That'll be spring-loaded. It'll pop it out part way. And then I actually have this little forceps that helps me get my fingers up in there to grab it. Just pretty delicately, and you can pull the card out. So this is actually the original card that came with my Chexx. It's just a 32 gigabyte micro SD class 10 card, and you'll notice that from the factory it came with a sticker with a generation number. So this Chexx runs on a generation 1.5 card, I guess, which is, and just got delivered earlier in the week. So as of today, I guess that's what they are up to. So obviously, first thing we're going to need is some SD cards to customize on our own. So I just got these off of Amazon. I know people have online in the forums have expressed opinions as to what works and what doesn't. Went through that, and I figured these would work for me. My original card in my Chexx was a 32 gigs, so that's what I went with, even though it looks like the files are a little bit less than 8, so I think a smaller card would work, but I figured just to be safe, I'd match the card that I had in my original machine as best as possible. So these PNY 32 gigs, a 3-pack, I think it was something like 13, 14 bucks. So the only thing I noticed that was really important, make sure you see the little class 10 there. And I think the original card was 80 megabytes per second or better. So these up here are 100. So 32 gig PNY class 10, that's what I got. I'm sure there's hundreds of others out there that would work, but I do know these work, at least in my machine. So I got a couple packs of these to modify, and we'll go from there.
All right, so first and foremost, what everybody says on the forums is you don't want to screw anything up, so I went ahead and I would recommend going ahead and making a backup of your original Chexx SD card. So I've got mine in my hand here. I'm going to pop it in the computer. An SD card reader. Take a second here for it to show up. There it is, just a generic no-name file. We'll double click on it and open up, and there is what is on my generic Chexx SD. So it shows up with a text file, a whole bunch of WAV audio files, goes all the way up to WAV 154, and then here start all the video and image files in these locked .bin files, which I, like others, haven't found a way to get into those quite yet, but we'll keep trying. But first thing I'm going to do, I just want to make a copy of this, so I'm just going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call it Chexx SD Backup. Go back into my SD card. I'm just going to select all and drag all, looks like 189 files into that new Chexx SD backup. So no matter what I do, I'm not going to touch this card whatsoever, but I've heard people say their cards get corrupt over the time. So I figure if that ever happens to this card, I've got a complete pristine backup of what untouched files are originally on my SD card just in this folder. I can reformat a card and create a new one if needed. So obviously when you get down to the video files, it takes a while, so I'm just going to pause here. It's going to take a few minutes to transfer everything. Okay, all those files have finished transferring. I'm pretty much done with my factory SD, so I'm going to eject it. Make sure, don't just remove it from the computer. Make sure you go up to your file window and actually physically eject it. That'll prevent any issues later. Remove it from the computer, and now I'm just going to keep this factory SD card in a safe place should anything go wrong. Worst case, I can reinsert it in my Chexx and get back to generic. Alright, now that that is done, so here's my freshly created backup, which I don't want to touch. I'm just going to stick that on my hard drive for safekeeping if I ever need to revert. So first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to make a copy of that. So we're going to duplicate that. And so I'm modding a Chexx Miracle on Ice version. So I'm just going to call this new copy is going to be my working directory that I'm going to use to do all my work in. So I'm just going to call it Chexx MOI SD. So this will be the actual copy of things that I do all my work in. So I'm just going to take this original factory backup. I'm just going to put it there with the rest of my Chexx files, and that's just stored there for safekeeping. So here's our working copy. Just going to open it up and spend a couple minutes here just showing you what all is on this card. So it starts out with a text file, and you open that, and it's just got a bunch of just random, well, not random, but country names. So this corresponds to the order in which the anthems are selected in your settings menu on your actual Chexx. So when you select National Anthem number 1, it's United States. National Anthem number 2 is English and Canada. Option number 3 is Canadian Anthem in French, and you got Russia and United Kingdom, and the rest of these, I am not sure if those files are actually loaded on every Chexx or not, but I am pretty sure even the base generic Chexx have at least the first 5. So this text file basically just is the placeholder that denotes when you select options 1 through 5 for which anthem it plays. This is the order in which they are. And those actually correspond to the first few WAV files. So WAV file number 1 is the US Anthem. WAV file number 2 is Canadian Anthem in English. WAV file number 3 is Canadian Anthem in French. 4 is the Russian National Anthem, or old USSR, I should say. And number 5 is God Save the Queen. So if you ever got to the point where you want to change which anthem you play, you want to play like a team anthem or any other song, you could actually swap out these the anthem to whatever these WAV files. So say you didn't need the UK anthem. If you want to play some custom song, theoretically I believe you could save that song, rename it 005 WAV, replace this file, and then when you go in your game options menu on your SuperChexx, you select number 5 when it asks you which anthem you want to play, and it now should play that number 5 anthem, whatever you created. So we'll go through the rest of some of these files and just go over what all they are. All right, WAV files 6 through 17 all have to do with the start and end of each period. 6 and 7 are the start of the first. WAV 8 is the end of the first. WAV 9 is the start of the second. WAV 10 is the end of the second. WAV 11, start of the third. WAV 12 is the end of the game, meaning the game ended in regulation time. 13 is also another end of regulation. And number 14, if the game is tied at the end of regulation, that's the end of regulation. Overtime's coming up next. 15 is the start of overtime. 16 is 16 and 17 are game over in overtime sounds if you want to modify those. Going next into waves 18 through 25. Oops. 18 through 25 are just random sounds that play periodically as the gameplay is underway. So if you wanted to just take random play-by-play snippets and replace those, then those would all, several files would all play just randomly at any time the puck is in play. Next, we get into the he scores, or the files that play immediately after a goal is scored by either team. These aren't team specific, unfortunately, so they're just kind of generic. They'll randomly play whenever either team scores. So that's WAV files 30 through 39. So you can swap those out with some kind of he scores or a goal. Just keep in mind that you can't specify which team it's for. So if you want to keep them generic, that's probably the best way. Or if you don't care, then you don't care. Let's see, next ones, 40 through 49. Those WAV files all play when the puck is sensed going through the crease. So they're the, shot it wide, hit the crossbar, just missed, hit the post, anything like that. Next is WAV files 50 through 68. And these are the files that play when you hit the boo button. And like everybody's kind of been complaining that if a previous sound is playing and you hit the boo button, all it does is, activate the ejector. It won't override a sound that is already playing. But if a sound is not playing at the time you hit the boo button, it will randomly select one of these 50 through 68 sounds. So, of which there are only, let's see, a few that are actual boos. 51 is an actual boo. Looks like 53 is an actual boo. There's some other random cheering. I believe that's 63, 67, and 57. But anything else, there's just some random commentary. So if you overwrite any of these will randomly play anytime you hit the boo button. If another random sound or goal sound or anything else is not already playing, because the boo sounds will not override a file that's already playing. Next is 70 through 79. And these sounds are all the sounds that randomly play in attract mode. So if your system is powered on and it's not doing anything, depending on your settings, every so often it will play one of those 70 through 79 sounds. So that's kind of a neat feature. You can customize those any way you like. Let's see, 80 through 89. These are all the sounds that play after the home team scores. You'll get the initial goal And then as the video replay plays, one of these sounds will play kind of as commentary on the goal. So the nice feature about these is these are customizable to your team. So 80 through 89 will play after a home goal. The next batch, 90 through 99, are sounds that will play after for the commentary or description of an away goal while the little video replay is playing. On mine, like I said, I just have a generic Miracle on Ice. I don't know if I think the NHL versions may have a lot more of these, but 100 through 104 are goal horn sounds. So if you want to swap out your goal horn, you could swap out files 100, 101. I'm guessing that if you have a NHL version, your board supports selecting an actual goal horn according to the team. On mine, my Miracle on Ice one, I don't have too many options. So 100 through 104, and presumably anything else in the low 100s, I'm guessing, are all goal horns. And last one in the WAV files, 150 to 154, those are additional national anthems corresponding to some of those other countries we saw in that text file. So I think it's Turkey, Finland, Germany. There's one more I don't remember, and turns out 154 is just a duplicate of the U.S. anthem. But 150 to 154 are other anthems. You can try playing with those depending on what options you get in your Chexx settings screens for anthems. Maybe you can play around with those some more. And then we get into all these bin files, which again I haven't found a way to get into. These are all the in-game videos and images for logos and whatnot, which at this point I haven't found a way to modify. So administratively, one other thing we're going to need to do before we get started is we're going to need some means of working with resaving, resampling the audio files to get them converted into the right format. So what I recommend, as well as a lot of other people, there is a free program out there called Audacity. It works in Windows or Mac, which is nice. So it's www.audacityteam. So it's AUDACITY team.org. So www.audacityteam.org. Go to that website and you get the Audacity page. There's a link here for download Audacity. And you get some downloads here, and it's kind of nice. You've got options for Windows, Mac, or Linux if you happen to. So I'm just using the Mac version. Middle download. Go into your downloads folder. And you can go through the install directions. There's an executable in the Windows version. For the Mac version, all you do is drag it in your applications folder. I'm not going to do it because I already have it installed. But Audacity is it's a great tool for doing this, and it is 100% free, and I've been using it for years. Don't have to worry about viruses or anything else. So next what we're going to do is we're going to want to prepare our new SD card. So I've got my blank 32 gig new PNY card. I'm going to pop that in my SD card reader. There it shows up as Untitled 1. And if we open it up, we see there is nothing on the card, so it's a blank card. I would recommend, like others have said on the forums, just to avoid any potential problems, it works best if you do a fresh format on the card before you start working on it. So Windows, you can format it in Windows. Obviously I got a Mac, so disk utility is what we use for that on the Mac. Open up disk utility, scroll down here, find my microSD. There it is, generic microSD Untitled 1. And I want to do a fresh erase and format. And so this is going to be important. I'm going to name it. I'm just going to call it MOI for Miracle on Ice Chexx SD. And this is going to be important here. The format on Mac, it defaults to Mac OS Journaled. We want it to be MS-DOS FAT or DOS FAT 32, I believe is the option when you're reformatting it in Windows. So we named it MS-DOS FAT. I'm going to click erase, and it does its thing. It's unmounting and then reformatting the card. And operation successful. Click done, and well, it shows up down there, but now it remounts it, and there it is, my fresh reformatted SD called MCLESLIE SD. So that is all ready to start dragging files onto as we get going. All right, and also obviously we need some means of grabbing the audio file that you want to use to begin with. Presumably it's either probably in this day and age it's off of a YouTube clip. So a couple ways to do that. Tell you what, I'm doing Miracle on Ice, and obviously for a sound I need to have the final 10 seconds of the Miracle on Ice. So let's just use that as an example here. I'm just going to open up YouTube. And like I said, I want the Do You Believe in Miracles call. So probably 500 ways to search this, but do you believe in miracles? Search for that, and yeah, here's a whole bunch of stuff. So let's just go with this second one here, final minute of the Miracle on Ice. Click it, and there it is. So what we are going to need is the link to that video, no matter what method we use. So if you go down to the share, if you don't know, that's how you get a link. You hit share, it gives you a quick link. You can just copy the link, and then it's in your clipboard. So we're done with that. So there's a couple ways to, and obviously we just need the audio. So a couple ways to do that. There are a bunch of online extractors. I've used a bunch over the years. I'm going to hesitate to say that's what you should do, because I've never had a problem personally, but some of these free YouTube audio conversion sites do have the potential to download viruses or malware. So I'm just going to show you this as an example. If you want to try it, like I said, there's hundreds of sites that do this. One I have used in the past is called ytmp3.cc. If you open that website, you get this YouTube to MP3 video converter. You get a search link here. All you do is you paste your link there for your YouTube video. It'll look for it here for a second. So you paste your link in there. It thinks for a second, and then it comes up final minute of Miracle on Ice. You can hit download MP3. And it should show up in your downloads folder, and there it is in your downloads folder. Drag it here to my desktop. Final minute of the Miracle on Ice MP3. So like I said, that's one way of doing it. Again, buyer beware. If you want to try doing it that way with a free online converter, you can do it. Again, does have the potential, depending on which site you use, to download some malware. So probably the better way to do it is to download a free app that actually extracts it. And what I recommend for that is a app called clipgrab.org, and you can do a free download. You don't have to donate. And there's the disk image file or install executable. You click on that. Like I said, I've already got it installed, so I'm not going to mess with it. But ClipGrab, I would recommend, if you're going to be doing a lot of this, probably grab a dedicated app that strips the audio from, or that downloads the YouTube audio rather than one of the online free services. So ClipGrab will actually download the actual video file, not just the audio, which is kind of nice too. If we ever figure out a way to modify the videos, that would give you the whole video file to work with. So let me just demonstrate this. I'm going to go to ClipGrab. And that's the generic window. We just paste in our YouTube link there. And like I said, it will only match the highest, resolution that's available on YouTube. It looks like it's 480p. And you can actually pick whatever format you want. If you want the Windows Media or MPEG-4, if you want the whole video, but they also do have a MP3 audio only option. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that because we're only going to be working with the audio for this. So I'm going to select MP3, grab the clip, but ask you where you want to save it. Just put it on my desktop and should be converting here. There we go. There's the one that clip grab finished. That's the one that clip grab created for me. So now I got this is the one from the free online service. Like I said, I'm gonna just delete that because I don't know if I trust opening it. And here is the one from our clip grab app. All right, now that we have our extracted audio of the clip we want to use, this is where Audacity comes in because we actually need to manipulate it. So I'm going to open up Audacity here. Opens up a blank project. And you can file import your file, or just as easy to, if it's on your desktop here, just drag and drop into the window, and you can see it populates the waveform here of our extracted audio. So just make sure it grabbed it. I'm just going to hit the play button. There it is. You can see the play bar going as it goes. But we're not going to want this whole minute, so I just want really the last 10 seconds. So I just figure out where that is here. Alright, so that was start at 11. So I'm going to start there with my play bar. I'm just going to click and drag to select a portion. Again, I don't need a whole lot, so I'm just going to drag to that much of it. And I'm going to come up to edit. I'm going to cut. That'll cut my portion. I'll just delete that. And I'm going to do edit paste. And this should just repaste just the section that I cut out previously. So let's check it. All right, and that's about all I want for my clip. So I'm going to highlight the rest of this, just hit delete. That gets rid of it. And now I've just got roughly a section containing what I want to convert to audio, the last 10 seconds of the Miracle on Ice. So now that that is done, we need to get it in the correct format to be usable by Chexx. So we can check that. I'm going to go back to my original Chexx backup file here. I'm just going to pick a random wave file here, wave 1, which is the anthem. You can do this on Windows by right-clicking and going to Properties, or on a Mac here it is Get Info. It brings up the info for that file, and we can see here it's a waveform Windows audio file. And the important thing is we want to come down here to sample rate and bits per sample. You can see that this one is a sample rate of 22 kilohertz and a bits per sample of 16. So if I save my audio file as something other than that, chances are it isn't going to play. It'll sound distorted. Maybe it'll play too fast, play too slow. You just don't know. But I have heard some other people saying on their Chexx SDs that they had a 32 bits per sample. I tried that when I tried modding mine, and it did not work. It played super slow and distorted. So at least on my Chexx card and game, it requires a 22 kilohertz and 16 bits per sample. But I would recommend, before you modify anything, go in here, check out Properties or Get Info on your original wave file, see what was actually on your original card. But 22 kilohertz and 16 bits is what I'm going with because I know that works. So in Audacity now we need to get it to show that. So you can see our project rate here for this project is 44.1. Well, that's going to be too fast for what we need. So I need to drag that down to 22.05. And I also can see on this particular file, it's sampled in 44.1 kilohertz, 32-bit float. So I need to change that. So in order to change it for this waveform, I want to go up to Tracks, Resample, and I want to make sure it's set to 22.05. Hit OK. All right, now we see stereo 22.05 hertz, so that's the right frequency. Mine still says 32-bit float, but we're going to fix that next when we import it. So, or export it, I should say. So if I just go File, if I go Save Project, that's going to save it as an Audacity file, meaning it's in a format you can still work with naturally in Audacity. I don't need that. What we want is a WAV file. So obviously we imported it as an MP3. We want Audacity to export it as a WAV file. So in order to do that, we come up with the File, Export. Here's your options: MP3, WAV, OGG. We want WAV. And we get an option, Save As, Final Minutes. I'm just going to We're actually going to call it 10 secs. And in coding here, this is where we need to double check this. It was 32-bit float, which some guys say on their cards is what they required. Again, mine needed to be 16-bit, so I'm going to with 16-bit PCM. Make sure it changes to that, and then hit save. And there it is, final 10 seconds .wave. So let's double check that it saved in the correct format. I'm going to right click that. Again, go to Properties, or on a Mac, Get Info. And there we go, 22 kilohertz, 16 bits per sample, so it should have converted into a format that I need. So now that that is done, we've got a file that we can just drag and drop where we want it on our Chexx Miracle on Ice modified SD. So I open that file, and like I said, I want that sound, let's say I want it to play as one of the just random attract sounds. So randomly, if the machine's on, not doing anything, it's going to do the final 10-second call. I don't know if you remember from the original What File Is What discussion, we know that 70 through 79 are the attract files. So I'm just going to go in. I'm going to take my final 10 seconds, and let's say I want to put it in place of this number 70. So I'm going to rename the file. Obviously, final 10 seconds is going to mean nothing to the Chexx motherboard. You obviously need to follow the naming convention. So I want to replace sound 070. So 070. Rename that file. Now I just drag and drop. And I want to replace it. All right, we'll do one more just as an example. So let's say we want to replace one of the he scores sounds that plays after a goal. So let's do Mike Eruzione's goal, since it's the Miracle on Ice version. So let's just go Mike Eruzione goal. There we go, Mike Eruzione game winner. That's probably as good a bet as any. We'll select it. All right, so that one will work. We'll go share. I'm going to copy the link. Go back to our clip grab. Paste our link. It finds it. Again, I want MP3 audio only. Looks like this one's only 240p, but that's all right. Grab the clip. Save it on the desktop as Eruzione game winner. Does its thing, says it's finished. There it is, over on the desktop. Done with clip grab. Done with YouTube. Back to Audacity. Open it up. Drag it in there. There's the waveform. And again, we just don't want the full minute. We probably just want the goal. So let's see where that starts. Right about there. And we'll go to about there. So select it, edit, we'll cut. delete that. Repaste just that section. Yeah, probably a little long. Just cut it another second or two. All right, once again, this was in mono. It shouldn't matter, but it's a project weight of 44.1. Again, we want it to 22 kilohertz. Change it to track. Want to resample to 22050. Hit OK. There, it's done it. 22050. 32-bit float, but we'll fix that when we export. File. Export as WAV file. microSD game winner. Save it to the desktop as a 16-bit PCM. And hit save. There it is over there as our game winner. Go back and open up our working Chexx XD card here, and we want to replace a he scores sound file, which I believe we said that was WAV files 30 through 39. So we just need to drop it in one of those. We'll just replace number 30. So there's our game winner.wave. Rename it 030.wave. Drag it in there. Hit replace. And that should be the correct file now. Double click it. All right, so there's our 030 wave. Double check, 22 kilohertz, 16 bits per sample. It should work in my Chexx. So one thing I should mention is clipping YouTube videos is one thing, but what about other websites or video clips that you can't necessarily have a web link that you can clip and save, such as, like, let's just take a screen grab off of NHL.com video. So you can actually record audio straight from your computer into Audacity. So I just went to NHL.com here to demonstrate this. Just picked a random clip here. But if you come into Audacity, you're going to have to figure out on your own what your best input and output sources here are. But you can, by the microphone icon there, you can pick what your audio input is, and then just find your whatever your NHL clip is there, or other website clip, start playing it, and when you get to the point you want to record, you just hit the record button, and you'll notice it'll actually start recording the audio from your clip live on screen rather than downloading it and clipping it with Clip Grabber. But so that is another option for you. I just wanted to show you that. All right, so now obviously you go back through, pull whatever other gold call, play-by-play, track sounds, boo button sounds, whatever you want to replace. You do that for everything you want to replace. Drag them into your working directory and can fully customize all of your sounds. See, once you're all done, you need to get the copy you've been working on transferred onto your blank reformat SD card. So all you do, you've got your complete working file here that you've made all your changes to. All you have to do is select everything in that folder and click and drag it onto your blank SD card. And you can see it's going to copy, looks like 190 items, so almost 6.8 gigs. So it's going to take a little while, probably 5 to 10 minutes depending on your computer, but we'll let that transfer. So all of the files have now transferred onto my newly created modded Chexx SD card. All that remains to be done is to come in here. We're going to eject it, pull it out of our SD card reader. We'll take it downstairs, pop it in our Chexx, and see how everything works.
So now we're ready to put our modified card back in. Goes label side down in my case, or outwards, I guess, from the PC board. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. So I just use my forceps. Slide it back in partway. I can just use my finger. And you'll hear it push it in, and it'll click in, and you'll hear it lock. And at this point, we're done. Lock things back up. And plug ourselves back in. Turn the machine back on. So just do a quick demo here of what the end result was. Let's get the volume turned up here.
The excitement, the tension building, the Olympic Center filling the capacity. The face value of a top ticket for tonight's game, $67.20. Outside, they're exchanging hands at 3 times the face value.
They will be playing against a very good team, a team that's better than they are. And after that time, after it's all over, this team will find out an awful lot about themselves. They'll simply find out how good they are.
11 seconds. You've got 10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Here we go as the game is underway. The Soviet Union in red and the United States in white. Hoda, his shot is saved by Tretiak after the great pass from... As the second period begins, the Johnson line out to the United States. Johnson scoring the goal with just 1 second remaining in the first period. Ramsey, long slap shot, the save by Musgrave. Rosioni, his rebound shot was wide. To the puck out for the U.S. Kenny, number 3, passing it into the Soviet end. Kasatonov back there, along with Johnson. That's the type of goal you don't expect somebody like Tretiak to give up. He scores! Lopez gets it by Craig to give the Soviets the lead. Now we've got Bedlam. Oh, I love Brooks' reaction. Here it is again.
Here's Rosioni using the defense as a screen. A good low shot.
And the second period is over. His shot is saved by Tretiak after the great pass from Baker in the corners. And the chant beginning, USA, USA. We've heard it all week. The shot goes in. One-liner.
Skate a little bit more. They try to apply more pressure in the Soviet zone. If they play the game in the U.S. zone, there are going to be a lot of goals scored.
Ramsey.
A long shot from a fairly severe angle, catching Tretiak in the top left side. Team has got to capitalize on their opportunities. They've had very few, but they've had 2 good ones this period. The Soviets will not give you that many chances. The ones that you get, you're going to have to score on.
Slap shot, and it was deflected in from the point.
The kind of play the U.S. team has to avoid. They were in pretty good shape. They were in control of the puck, and then they lost.
And here we go. Overtime.
Rotten now. Back out to the point to Baker. Baker skates in. Baker trying to centering. Now we've got Bedlam. Oh, and look, Brooks' reaction. Here it is again.
Here's Ruzioni using the defense as a screen. A good low shot.
They're going crazy out there. They're jumping up and down. And what a celebration it is.